Welcome to Roundtable Ops in Motion, where marketing, sales, and RevOps leader break down the systems, strategies, and data shaping modern GTM operations. Each episode brings you actionable insights, practical frameworks, and emerging trends, helping B2B teams stay aligned, efficient, and scalable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roundtable Ops in Motion. I'm Shiv, co-founder of Digital DI Consultant, joined by my co-founder, Kawal. As always, we are excited to bring you conversations with leaders who have built, scaled, and transformed businesses and share their experiences with our community. Joining us today is Vidhi Bhansali, a product marketing and GTM strategist, passionate about helping companies to bring clarity to their products, messaging, and growth strategies. With over 15 years of experience, she has helped organizations validate product market fit, launch new offerings, enable sales teams, and leverage AI to accelerate GTM execution. She's also the creator and the host of the South Asian Impact Project, where she spotlights inspiring immigrant leaders and the power of storytelling. Vidhi, very excited to have you with us. Welcome to Ops in Motion.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you for having me here.
Wonderful. So, Vidhi, if you don't mind, would you like to tell us more about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Vidhi Bhansali, and I've spent 15 or 20 years, depending on how you look at it, in SaaS B2B. And in a wide range of roles, from programmer to professional services, sales ops and strategy, and finally found my home in product marketing. And I've also worked in organizations of many flavors, ranging from early startup to, the Ciscos of the world, where I entered through acquisitions. I've been through 3 acquisitions now. So that's been a fun journey. And then, even in terms of the go-to-market initiatives that I've led, they've run the whole spectrum, ranging from launching a net new product, driving product market fit, to, establishing market leadership, category leadership for, of course, more well-established products, market expansion, whether that's locally through adjacent markets or internationally, so sort of doing the whole assessment. And even launched, net new SaaS platform from ground up for a legacy software company. So it's been an incredible journey. And, in working through all these organizations and through many of these roles, I think I have a very good appreciation of what it takes for all these functions to work together to drive go-to-market success. And that's why I think the work that you're doing in driving RevOps is critical for companies to make sure that, all functions are aligned and sort of marching in the same direction. And so most recently, I was driving go-to-market product marketing for our flagship products at a company called Audit Board, and they're now called Optro. And so Audit Board provides audit, SOX management, risk and compliance management solutions for, large enterprises, Fortune 500. And I was lucky enough to be part of the growth journey that took the company from 110 million to $300 million in revenue, and including a PE acquisition for $3 billion in 2024. So that was, again, a fun ride. And last fall, I decided to take a break from my career for personal reasons. And since then, besides being in my husband and my daughter's hair, I've also been busy in many different ways. So I've launched my own social impact podcast, like you mentioned. I'm happy to get into that. I've also been doing some pro bono consulting work for nonprofits. Again, heavy use of AI to help them drive that acceleration, the data transformations, and their fundraising strategies. And then recently, I also launched my own go-to-market advisory, and so focusing a lot on early stage growth companies who are now ready to scale their go-to-market because they've hit some sort of a repeatable go-to-market motion. So that's where I come in to help them identify what that is and basically hit the gas on that, doubling down on that go-to-market motion to build their pipeline. So that's about me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for introduction, Vidhi. So we've seen fractional roles, which are not very new to all of us right now, right? And they have certainly become more prominent in these years. Earlier, it was not. So from your perspective, how do you see the role has evolved over the period of time?
And
I think fractional.
also, just to add on to that, probably we just wanted to add one more question since it's related to that, Vidhi.
Okay.
Since you come from a specific background and the kind of things that you're doing, so also wanted to know more about your thoughts on B2B GTM and the product market fit challenges and solutions that you see out there in the market.
Absolutely. And those are loaded topics. We could have a whole series of 10 podcasts on it, but I'll try to keep it brief. So to Kawal, to answer your question first, I think fractional, and I'm just getting into it myself, so learning a lot about this world. I've been on the other side, like yourself, where I've employed fractional leaders to help with a certain go-to-market motion or, when we're gaining momentum. But what I'm learning is that as more and more organizations encouraged or powered by AI are launching their own startups, they are moving fast, right? So the acceleration to PMF is happening a lot faster thanks to a lot of the momentum you get from AI. And I think that's where companies are reaching a point where they're ready to scale. They need these experienced leaders and resources to come in and help them, but obviously they don't have the resources to hire full-time, right? And that's where I think the fractional momentum is happening right now. And in fact, what I argue, maybe I'm biased as a product marketer, I argue that, you need to bring in product marketing at the very early stages, because that's when you're really defining your ICP and you're really testing it against, based on customer interviews, looking at your win-loss analysis. And so the sooner you have that expertise and you're not experimenting for longer, the sooner you'll reach product market fit and sort of be able to build that scalable motion. And so speaking of product market fit, while I've been in organizations of many different phases and the go-to-market challenges are different at every phase, I'll talk a little bit about go-to-market, product market fit, because that's where I think a lot of people are today with new startups coming up. And I've been talking to, as part of my own go-to-market research for my advisory, I've been talking to a lot of founders. And what I'm realizing is that, one of the questions I asked them is, how did you know that you hit product market fit for those who've been successful? Or how do you know you're going to hit it? What are you measuring against? The surface for me is that it's not so much the ARR, right? It's not so much what funding stage are you at, Series A or seed or pre-seed. What really matters in product market fit is if you have a repeatable go-to-market motion. And what I mean by that is that are you, look at your last 5 deals, right? Are you consistently selling to the same buyer persona? Are you consistently selling for the same use cases? And are you consistently selling for the same value proposition, which is differentiated? And if the answer is yes, that means yes. Now you're sort of hitting that product market fit. And now you can double down on a go-to-market motion that really targets that specific set of ICP and use cases. So, so I think, happy to dig into more on that if needed. But what I'm also seeing with these new age startups is obviously there's a desire to bring in AI. And I think it's great for a lot of the operational use cases. And actually, I'd love to get into your thoughts on that as well, because you're in that space. And there are a ton of frameworks out there, prompts, library, and so on. I think what's missing when I look at these frameworks is some of them have asked me to implement these for them. What's missing is the key context that you use to set up these frameworks, right? If you put in the wrong ICP, your wrong assumptions, you'll get crap out of it. So I think it's really important. And I urge founders to really do your homework, talk to customers. Don't just rely on what AI is telling you based on market information. Truly look at your competition, right? Competition isn't just other firms who are doing stuff similar to you. Competition could be your underlying frontier AI LLM model. If you look at Claude, launch something for lawyers, right? Based on what Harvey was doing, building on their platform. And so I think you have to sort of step back and look at your whole go-to-market landscape holistically, create that context, and then feel free to obviously use it with your AI tools and iterate on it. So I'll pause there. But honestly, I'd love to, both Shiv and Kawal, you've been in the RevOps space. How are you seeing the role of AI emerge in go-to-market?
First of all, Vidhi, thank you for sharing your perspective. I really love that perspective because it really highlights how business priorities have changed over the period of time. And it feels like organizations today are becoming much more comfortable bringing in specialized, expertise than just, focusing on what they were doing it, like permanent roles or just focusing on the traditional method of doing marketing or sales or operations, but they have been a transformation there. And coming to state of GTM or AI in GTM, I think it's a really interesting point in the evolution of GTM or in the operations world. For years, I think companies focused on buying more technology, CRMs, more automation tools, more workflows, building them in-house and getting more sales engagement platforms, believing that the next tool is going to come up with something different and it's going to change whatever issues that we have, whatever challenges that we have. But today, the conversation has shifted. We are not thinking about that, buying more tools, but we need to have a tech stack which is like connected, talking to each other. We have like people, data, technology, and processes connected or tied up together for everything to work. And I think AI has accelerated the shift, wherein we are seeing like when you are working with AI to eliminate repetitive work. So we are using AI to see like we can summarize meetings, we can generate content, we can qualify leads, we can clean CRM data, we can surface pipeline risk that we can see later on. So we can do those kind of forecasting with it and some kind of reporting that assists us. Okay, these are the things that can become a hurdle. But again, our data has to be very clean and nice for to trust that judgment and whatever AI is providing us. But at least we are able to use AI for those repetitive tasks. And the organization is struggling right now is again to fix the operational issues because if the CRM data is incomplete and if the lead life cycle, the journey of the customers is not complete, it is not being set up the way they want it, like the business wanted to be, or it is not meeting the goals, the revenue goals, then obviously these things are not going to work. So AI is not going to solve these things, but it's going to amplify your operation based on whatever you provided. So if companies seeing success are the ones who can have strong operational foundations, and they should have like clean data, clean ownership of like which tool is owned by marketing, which is by sales, and which data to trust, which is our source of truth. So we cannot have two, three different tools and overriding information, getting different types of information. And of course, a standardized process, governance in place, all of these things are important, I think. So, looking ahead, I think the next phase of GTM would be we are already into it about AI agents, so we can execute operational tasks and monitor the CRM health, which were not able to do that in the past, and that could help us in minimizing the revenue risk and recommending the best actions that we could take in future. So yeah, I see the future of GTM and AI is working alongside the operators who would know how to build a scalable system, which is really important. And most of the organizations are struggling because they don't have the connected system in there.
We've seen that challenge, in a lot of organizations I've worked at, and the good ones do it right, where sales and marketing are really coming together to marry that data, the goals, the targets, and sort of like how are you collectively working towards that. So yeah, love that work.
And absolutely, just to add on to that, Kawal and Vidhi, so what I'm saying is, AI is transforming the way GTM team operates, and it's helping us work faster and cover insights quicker and automate repetitive tasks, what just Kawal said. And now imagine this, imagine again, just to add on to about AI agents, which I'm pretty excited about as well. Imagine an AI agent that continuously monitors your CRM, identify duplicate records, flags workflow failures, alerts you when your pipeline coverage is dropping, or recommends you improvements to your lead routing, all without someone having to ask. But what we're also seeing is we're seeing organizations accept they would ideally want AI to solve your operational problems that have existed for years, right? The reality is AI simply simplifies or amplifies rather what already is there. Now, if your processes and the data are strong, AI would accelerate your growth, and if they're not, it will simply accelerate the chaos. We recently had Justin Gray. It was a couple of weeks ago, and he's one of the great minds in GTM space. And there's something he said that kind of stuck with me very deeply. What he said was, again, it's again purely based upon his experience, and he also runs a VC firm. Now, he says, let's take two scenarios. One scenario is you're a software company and you're trying to build or write amazing codes, or you're trying to build apps, which is relatively easy, and AI can really amplify you there. However, when it comes to GTM space, the GTM strategies and execution, you must be very careful as to what kind of output and double check as to what's been thrown at your way from the AI, because in many cases this isn't output that you're looking for, simply because if your foundation isn't set right. Again, coming back to your point, Vidhi, it's your ICP, getting the foundations done, the processes, the technologies, and if everything doesn't fall in place, AI just would not help you the way you would ideally would want in terms of output that you're looking for. So that's 2 cents from me as to where we are looking at in terms of AI and what kind of things that we are able to achieve, and it's a long way to go where we would ideally want it to be.
I agree. The challenge is AI will help you manufacture conviction. And if you don't
Right.
pressure test it, it will convince you that what it's telling is the right way to do, right? So you have
Yeah.
to, it's promising, but I don't think it's there yet. I think the judgment
Yeah.
still sits
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
humans today.
So there's
Yes,
one
you're
thing
right.
that you made a point, Vidhi. It's about repeatable growth motion. Just wanted to know more about it. Like, how do you see that being in motion with the organizations that you have worked in the recent past, and how do you foresee that as well, the repetitive growth motion?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. A product I launched at one of my companies, we obviously did our market research. We built the product, and this was like an AI first product, so truly innovative. In the market, there was no one else solving the problem in such a differentiated way. So all that was great, and then we start doing our beta testing. We start talking to customers, very important, and in those conversations, we realized that in order to bring this tool in, this product, they would first need to set up their broader program around it. And that was done through bringing in, like a consulting firm or like an advisory firm, right? So really initially, as we're trying to prove this out in the market, what seemed like a repeatable motion was to basically partner with these consulting firms and partner with them to basically bring this tool into their advisory practice. And so that was the fastest way to get entry into, with a customer. And as we do that, the plan was to then build out sort of our product market fit and our own customer testimonials, branding in the market. So yeah, I think going back to and it could be when you're looking at your ICP, really dive deep into what's repeatable here. Is there a specific persona that I'm selling to again and again, right? Is there a specific persona that's going to come up with the objections who doesn't want this product in there? Is there a specific persona that will truly benefit, may not be the decision maker, but they're an influencer? So map out who are you seeing in those roles. In B2B sales, you'll get like your champions, your influencers, your buyers, your decision makers, and your practitioners. So make sure those are showing up consistently, because then you can really target your messaging for them. Look at what use cases are they bringing you in for. Are they really using you for what you intended the product to do? And if not, then there's a different signal, right? Maybe you need to build additional integrations for your products to really be effective. So how are they using it? I would also look at signals for, is there a consistent, repeatable vertical? Maybe in healthcare, in FinServe. Is there a repeatable segment? Hey, specifically within FinServe, we're looking at small regional banks. So get really clear on that. And of course, when you're early in 5 deals that you've had success, that may not emerge, but just be on the lookout for that. And my advice would be, until you have that clarity, don't pour fuel on a go-to-market motion that you're not clear that that's repeatable, because then you're just basically spraying and praying essentially for results.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right, that's very true. I think we have been seeing this all and out, working with many organizations, many teams. They always come up with, they have this issue, but then you dig deep and you find all of these things, that these are the issues or challenges that we are talking about, but they don't know initially, because they might have not done the audit, or they might have not seen these things digging deeper into their process. They've been doing it for years and they trust those processes and tools and technology, and they're comfortable with it. But there are these kind of underlying issues that comes up when we dig deeper. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So, Vidhi, I have seen or read about, South Asian Impact Project. So it would be great, I mean, I've seen you putting a lot of effort in that. So it would be great to know more about it. Like, I think you're passionate about it, so I would let you talk about it.
Thank you for asking. So, like I mentioned, when I took my career break, between roles, call it midlife crisis, but basically you start looking at what does your next 10 years look like, right? Or what's the
Yeah.
legacy that I'm trying to build and leave behind? And so as I was thinking through those, one of the recurring thoughts was I want giving back to the community to be a big part of what I do for the next 10 years. And so as part of that, I started looking at volunteer opportunities and came across some incredible people that are doing this through either their direct community work, community kitchens, right, volunteering, or through their professions. And so that really resonated with me. And at the same time, there was a lot of narrative online about immigrants in this country, right? And about like who belongs and who doesn't and who's a true American. And so I think all of that sort of collided for me. And I felt like I had to tell these stories of South Asians who are driving a positive change for the broader American communities, right? So not just for their own groups or clans, that they're going beyond that. And so that's that, combined with just the passion I have for storytelling, I felt like I had to bring that out. And so that's how I launched the South Asian Impact Project podcast. It's available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We also have a Instagram, Facebook page. But what I want to really emphasize is that even though these are South Asian voices, these are truly American stories, right? They're American stories of impact. It's about grit. It's about resilience, about building something that truly drives social impact. And if you look at the content, it's actually relevant for whether or not you're South Asian, right? There's a lot of educational value learnings, and we cover a whole range of topic from AI to careers in cybersecurity to women empowerment, youth empowerment, early childhood education. So I think anyone listening would walk away with something from this, whether or not you're South Asian. So yeah, please tune in and follow along.
Wow. I love that you've chosen to invest your time something outside of day-to-day work that we usually do, because we get so engrossed in our day-to-day work we don't even look outside of that. Doing something outside of that is really great. And we often talk about career growth and business successes, but creating a meaningful impact like how you're doing it in the community is just very important. So
Thank you.
yeah, I think it's really inspiring.
Thank you. And I think it balances the commercial side of what I do, which is more the go-to-market advisory. And
Yeah.
in some ways, my goal is to bring those two worlds together, where I'm driving go-to-market for mission-driven organizations. So that's always my pursuit to sort of pick those out as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thanks, Vidhi. I think I truly appreciate you sharing your story and also South Indian Impact Project and the podcast that you do. I think it would be inspiring for people who would be listening to this podcast, not only by helping the businesses grow, but also investing in building a stronger community and creating opportunities for others. So that would be really nice. And yeah, we enjoyed hearing your perspective on fractional leadership and how the organization grows and how there are different kind of businesses, different type of organization, different types of way of looking at things. It was nice having you on the episode. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.